But then like I was like, you know what, French, if it's like a French special needs camp, I'll absolutely go for it. I just want to like really, that was the main motivation for doing it. Honestly, I kind of just was like, this isn't real. I don't know. It became more real when I signed up to the hiring fair and I actually saw all the camps that were there.
But I'd always push people, like, if you're doing one thing that's already outside your comfort zone, like, just full send it, like, just go.
Like, it's a lot more fun to be like, hey, Barbie, where's my shoes? And then like the 16-year-old guy that's like too cool for camp is like, Barbie, I don't want to go to this. And I'm like, oh, sorry, can you say that a bit louder, please?
Hi guys, I'm Libby and this is the Camp Leaders Podcast where we talk everything summer camp, America and travel. Today I'm joined with the lovely Mark from Camp Canada and we're going to be talking about Camp Canada and his experience on the programme.
Hey guys, I'm Mark with the Community Success Team at Camp Canada. I worked in Quebec as a general counsellor last year and I'm actually going back to the same camp this year, so I'm really excited to go back.
Amazing. So let's start from the start then.
Yeah.
So what made you first kind of apply like to Camp Canada? Where were you kind of at and what made you go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went into my final year of uni last year and I was like bogged down with loads of assignments in my thesis and I wanted to do something crazy afterwards. So my friend did Camp Canada the year before and I really just was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do something way outside my comfort zone. And she went to a summer camp in Quebec and she was doing French. So I was doing French my final year and I wanted just to like, you know what, I'm going to learn more Quebecois. And I had spent a year in France. So I was like, you know what, this is it. I'm going to go across the Atlantic on my own. And then I just made a Camp Canada application on a whim. And then all of a sudden it started to add up. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is getting really serious. And then I did the online hiring fair and all of a sudden I got a placement and it was getting really real. So I booked my flights and I was like, right, I'm super excited. This is it. And all my friends were like, you got this. You're going to do it. Like I had like a goodbye party and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? But it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I'm really happy I did it. What about you? Why did you apply for camp?
My cousin always did it, and you know when you're like, I don't know if it's just me, but when you're like younger and you think your cousin's like the coolest person to like ever exist. So my cousin did it, so I always had in my head that I wanted to go to camp. She went through Camp Leaders as well, so I just did the same thing. But so mine was a lot more kind of like calculated really. I wanted to go before COVID, but obviously there was the pandemic. So yeah, I just applied afterwards. I applied quite early on in the season. I applied in like July. But,
oh, wow.
So did you know what kind of like camp you wanted to go to going into it, or was it just like, did you go into it like open-minded, would you say?
I went into like open-minded. I was a bit like resistant to go to like a rustic camp my first time around. I think I had like traditional camp ticked on my preferences, but then like I was like, you know what, French, if it's like a French special needs camp, I'll absolutely go for it. I just want to like really, that was the main motivation for doing it. And then I found like the perfect camp for me because I was talking to the camp director at the online hiring fair and they were all talking about like their underprivileged children's initiative. So like they're working with the Children's Foundation. I was like, oh wow, like I can actually get something out of this in terms of, it's not just like a summer adventure for me, it's also giving back to the community that really needs it. So I was like, you know what, like I really think this is going to be super beneficial to these kids and also kind of remind me what kind of privileges I have in life and just be like, you know what, this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's amazing. So did you were you open to chatting to any other camps, do you think? Like was that something that, like when you were first going through that application process, was that something that you like listed on your application or again just like on?
I mean, honestly, I kind of just was like, this isn't real. I don't know. It became more real when I signed up to the hiring fair and I actually saw all the camps that were there. And I think I just walked in completely open-minded, which is a really good thing because I was super like, I don't know where I'll go. I mean, I did obviously have a preference for Quebec, but like I was like, you know what, I'll go to like Alberta. I'll go to the beautiful mountains and the Rockies. And I'm really happy with where it ended up. And I thought about going back to like a similar camp this year, but I'm actually just, you know what, this one. I was like with my friends, I walked in we were like, let's all get jobs at the exact same camp. And then we all walked out with different jobs. And people always ask me like, oh, can we link our applications together? I'm going to go with my friend. And then I'd always tell them like, oh, we did the same thing, but then we ended up traveling together at the end of camp, which was so much better because we were not stressed. And
were you glad that you didn't go to camp with your friends?
I really was because I made loads of friends at camp straight away because people don't realize like you're in the same kind of environment
100%.
24/7, no technology.
I feel like that's something I say, like if people are anxious about making friends, like you're in a situation where you're going to make friends. Like there's so many people in the same situation. You've already got so much in common by doing that. Like you are going to make friends. But no, I think that's great. And then you met up to go traveling after, did you say?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I have like a plan traveling where I want to go. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm near Ottawa. I want to go to the Rockies for sure, and I wanted to maybe go to Vancouver, and I planned like this whole trip. I was like, cool, I'll do it solo. And all of a sudden all these people were like, no, I want to go too. So I had like a group of like 6 people that wanted to travel with me. I was like, oh great. So then we slowly booked it all together, and then I met up with a few of my friends in Toronto. So a few of them split up and went to New York, and then one or two joined me in Banff, and that was amazing. But I got to still experience the country with my friends, so it wasn't just like, oh, I'm here on my own. But going to camp, I was super impressed by all the level of French there. And people were from like England and Ireland. And that was one of the benefits of Camp Canada was I was going with people from where I was from. So I was able to make friends super easy.
So were your friends' camps, were they near yours? Like, could you travel to camp together or?
Like technically, yeah, but one of them started super early and I arrived like basically on my own. And it really took a lot of courage to get on that plane on my own to go 6 hours to Montreal. And then like the second I got on the plane, I started talking to 2 Quebecois girls and I was just kikiing away. I was like, oh, this is great.
Friends,
and I was like, oh, like I should not have been nervous at all. But as someone that gets anxious, I can definitely like empathize with our participants that are just like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know?
No, because I definitely think it is daunting. Like you'll go in, like you can't kind of sell it short. Like you're leaving the country to go and work for a couple of months. Like you're going to this random place. Like it's so nerve wracking. And I can see why it's comforting, like to go with a friend. But I'd always push people, like if you're doing one thing that's already outside your comfort zone, like just full send it. Like just go. Like you know, you might as well just kind of take that opportunity.
Yeah, I always think that like
with it.
Life begins at the end of your end of your comfort zone. So like you always just like do new things, constantly challenging yourself. Like if you don't do all these things that make you feel uncomfortable, you won't learn anything. Like I learned so much from this experience. I was like, you know what, like life, I'm actually really privileged to have this experience and I shouldn't doubt myself so much. I had all these kids running up to me like, oh my God, how are you? Like, and I'd be like, oh, like just me being there really helped them throughout their day. And I was like, wow, this is such a cool experience that I didn't even think, and I wouldn't have done all of that traveling had I not pushed myself out of my comfort zone initially. So
well, and I think as well, like the camp you went to, like they spoke French, and that's a
that was another challenge.
Yeah, like even though you did a degree in it and stuff, like it's a whole different.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing when
language.
a kid's telling you like, why does Batman do this? And I'm like, I don't know why Batman does this, and I have to like all of a sudden come up with an explanation in French, or like I was like, oh, like ghosts don't exist in French. How do I say that sentence? Like, and that was something that my GCSE did not prepare me for.
No, but I think that's such like another like huge step as well. Like not only were you going to camp, but you were going a whole different language. Did you feel like the language barrier ever like not held you back, but did you feel like, did that ever make you like more apprehensive for going for camp or anything?
Yeah, there was a time where I was like, oh my God, I'm definitely gonna get fired. Like my French is not good enough at all. And then I think I'm someone who has to see it to believe it. So when I arrived at camp and did the training, and I was like, oh, like this French is not too bad. Like Franco-Ontarian is like American accent with French, and some of the Quebecois was a little bit difficult to understand, but it was full immersion. So I really learned it super quick. But there were moments in the summer where I just didn't know what to say to some of the kids. I'd be like, you know what, I'm just gonna figure out how to say it in a different way. Or kids be like crying and I wouldn't know what they were saying. And I just try to summarize them like, so you're upset, you're angry. And I think you're angry because this, and the kids go, yeah. So like it definitely helped me learn loads of French I didn't think I'd learn. And I had to like, I looked up a list of French before going, like what counselor was, marshmallow, like bunk bed, all those kind of little words that helped me out.
You wouldn't know.
Doing it is how you learn it. Like that's why I was super glad to do it, because now I can go back and have no qualms. I'm like, I can lead all the activities. I'm grand. I know what bow and arrow is in French now, thank God.
So are there many like French speaking camps on the Camp Canada program?
Yeah, we work with a few all over like Quebec, but mainly we have ones that are like, this is an underprivileged children's camp, or like they're private ones. So there's like a lot of different variety there. It just depends on like which camps are looking for who, and some of them are bilingual. So that was like also a fallback. If I didn't have the French, I could go to a bilingual one and then learn the French throughout. So that's kind of what I recommend people for first time around.
That is so cool. So like even if you like, you know, weren't as like if you weren't as good as French, essentially you could go to like a camp where you can learn more. That's so cool.
Yeah, my friend, she didn't have a word of French when she went over to Quebec, and then she learned so much French over there, but she was in a bilingual camp, so she was able to do that there.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So how was like, did you find the visa process with Camp Canada? Like I know it's obviously daunting, like you're, you know, getting a visa or a work permit, you guys call it, don't you? Like a work permit to go and work in a whole different country. Like how did you find that? Yeah,
so it was actually much easier than I thought it was going to be, because like essentially you just upload all your documents to Camp Canada and they process it all for you, and then when you arrive at the airport you collect it. Now the difficulty I had was I didn't read the fine print, classic participant story. And they recommend that you leave like a few hours in between if you have a connection in Canada, because you have to get your work permit at the first point of entry. And like I was in Montreal and I had like an hour and a half in between my flight to get my work permit, which is really tight. So I was sitting there in immigration like, oh God, I won't be able to do this. But then I got it and then sprinted to my gate and my flight was delayed, so it was fine. But you just have to like wait and make sure your work permit's fine. And like our work permit team is really like they do like 1,000 something like that work permits every year, so really handy. And you don't have to go to like an embassy in Ireland. You just like apply online. And a lot of people were asking me like, oh, have you got your visa for Canada? And I was like, no, I don't think I need it. But then like I didn't need it in the end. So, and then when I reapplied for my work permit to extend it in the fall, Camp Canada were super helpful when I was just like doing all those documents and stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. You guys can stay there for like a fair while, can't you?
Like depending on what you want to do and your availability, like if you need to go back to like uni or something, you can probably say like, oh, I'm gonna leave on like the 31st of August or something, and the immigration officer will be like, yeah. But like if you want to stay like longer, they can give you up until like December. It really depends. It really depends on the immigration officer, like how nice they're feeling that day. But like my friend got until like November, and I would have loved that, but I did, like plans changed with me, so I had to extend it.
But, of course. So like would that be working the off season at camp? So like I know it happens with my camp. I don't know if it's the same with yours, but people can like rent it out for like weddings or events and parties. Like is it stuff like the kids there the year round?
So it's like a bit different. There's like off season and then summer season. So like summer season is like all teenagers and stuff. They come for the like a certain period of time, like 10 days. But like off season is more school. So like schools in the region will come and like do like team building activities, archery. They'll just like get away from the school and learn things and things. It was cool because I instead of working with teenagers, working with like 10-year-olds, and it was really different. But I got like a different role. So I wasn't a general counselor, I was an activity facilitator. So I took like 25 kids off into a nature walk, and I'd tell them like, this is what a maple leaf is, and they're like, whoa, you're so smart. And I'd be like, yeah, I didn't just learn the script off, but it was great. And that was like another thing with the French, like each time I went back, it was more of a challenge, but I really liked that. Like we did this thing called Foot Camp, which is like campfire, and it's like a play that we would do. So we do like songs and comedy and improv and get into costumes and make the kids laugh, and even the teenagers laugh in the summer, but they were too cool to laugh. But then like I went from watching the plays and supervising to actually being in the production. So like I would get the wigs on, I would do the singing, I would do the jokes in French, and I was so scared initially. But then by the end of the summer, I was like, no, I'll be the evil cowboy. Give me the hat, I will do it. And I'm really looking forward to doing it again. Like I loved having the creative input into what we were doing. I was like, yeah, okay, so it's gonna be about cowboys, and they're gonna have like a bison, and all the kids loved it. Like the school teachers were crying laughing. I think they found it more funny than the kids did.
So they could stay there for however long.
Yeah, so the schools would come for like maybe 4 days at a time.
Oh, and then like we used to do stuff like that in primary school. Just obviously not in Canada. We used to do things like that. But no, that's so cool then. Yeah, with my camp in the off season, it's more like clubs can kind of rent it out for like events and weddings and things like that. So if people choose to stay a bit later through the season, it's more kind of like
additional stuff.
Not necessarily like working with kids and things like that.
I think another thing we do in the spring is like we have an Indigenous group come to the camp, and they it's like training Indigenous youths, like how are they going to tackle certain things in the community. I wouldn't know a lot about that because it's the spring, but like it's something cool that we also offer. So you're talking about like weddings and clubs, so we do offer like an Indigenous group come to the camp. Yeah,
amazing. But yeah, so with like getting to camp, and obviously we've kind of gone over speaking French and everything.
Oh yeah.
How like arriving to camp, what was that like for you? Like the first day, like talk me through the first day you got there. Like
sure.
How was that?
So I booked my flights to go to Canada like super early because I wanted to get them done, and then like a few months in, my flight got cancelled, so I had to rebook it, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm going to Canada like a day earlier, like what am I going to do for that day? And I was like, oh, what am I going to do in Ottawa? Like Ottawa's like a city in Canada, so I obviously arrived, got my work permit, got like my second flight to Ottawa, and then I was like, cool, I'm in Ottawa, what do I do now? So I had to get to my hostel, and my hostel I had like an extra day essentially because my flight got cancelled and moved around. So I was like, awesome. So I arrived at my hostel, called my mom, and I was like, I'm here, like I made it in Canada. It was like 2:00 in the morning in Ireland, and she was like, okay, you're here, great, I can go back to sleep now. But then like I just like explored the Canada. I explored Ottawa for the rest of the day, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go to the apartment building and whatever. And then later on in the evening, the camp was gonna collect us from the train station. So I met up with a girl, and we had like coffee, and we were talking like, oh my god, this is it, like we're going to camp. And we kind of mentally held hands, and I'm really good friends with that girl to this day. Like we talk all the time, and she's actually staying in an IEC in Canada for 2 years, like a 2-year visa. She's there, so I'm gonna go back and see her in the summer. I'm proper excited.
Did
to see her.
Like was she international then? Did you
she was international staff? She was from the UK, and she was also similar to me. She had like French as like a second language, and we were like, okay, look, if we understand each other, that's fine. Like if we can just communicate between us. And then we were practicing our French a little bit, and it was and then we both went to the train station together with our suitcases and our pillows and everything. Arrived at the train station, and then this pickup truck came, and this camp director just popped out, and she was like, hey, let's go to the camp. And we were like, oh my god, this is it. So we threw all our stuff into the back of the pickup, and we were driving up the Canadian highway, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. So we were playing like tunes in the car, getting really excited. And then we arrived at the camp, and it was beautiful. So I was like, wow, this is a cool sunset. And then we were all exhausted because we all had just gotten our work permits, and we were just like flopped on the couch, and we all just like, I was like, okay, I'm going to bed now. And then we went into our cabin, and then all of a sudden we started talking till like 3 a.m, and I was like, that's the summer camp. But what about you? What was your like first day in camp?
Well, I flew out to my camp's in New York, so I flew out a day before, and I met up with some. We'd like been in a Facebook group beforehand, so I met up with like a couple of girls who were also going to camp. So we spent the day in New York, and that was so nice because as well you've got like even if it was only like a day, you've got that day to build a relationship, and then it's like, right, I've got 4 friends now. I'm not walking in here alone. So we got the train from New York to like a train station nearer to camp, and they picked us up. But like, I feel like the drive there was like where it really hit me as well, because like I've been to America before I started camp, but only like obviously in cities and stuff. So we were driving down like the highway, the freeway. There's something different. I don't know, the motorway. And then we had like music on, and I was like, oh, this is real. Like I'm here now. And then the first day at camp, they kind of got straight into like the team building activities. So you get there, and then it's like, one top tip I'd say for people going to camp is have a fun fact about you ready.
Oh my god,
like, that's like the number one thing at camp.
That was like a word that took me back to camp. I was like, oh, I have to have a fun fact about myself.
Fun fact?
Yeah, my fun fact was that I did a skydive like 2 years ago. That was really cool. I did it for charity and raised a bunch of money for Alzheimer's Ireland.
Oh,
so that was like my fun fact. So then after that experience, I was like, I have a fun fact about myself.
Yeah,
that's
like,
it. That was the only reason.
That's like a top thing I'd say is have a fun fact ready, because you have to be firing them away. But so my first year I flew out to. I was like helping out with arts and crafts, so I flew out with specialist orientation. So I was at camp like a week earlier before a lot of the other staff. So I really liked that, because I felt like I had a week to
settle in.
Yeah, like to meet people, remember people's names, and it wasn't like as much of a like kind of being thrown in the deep end. But then this year I went as a general counsellor, so I flew out on the later date. And although you are thrown in the deep end, it's kind of like, I'm here. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, this is it. Like, I'm in the deep end. So you kind of have to go. But I did like having that week to like ease myself into it and get used to it a little bit more. So my first couple of days at camp, I wouldn't say I was homesick, but I think it was, like the first like
initial shock.
Yeah, like this is different. Like the cultural differences and stuff. Did you find that was like not a problem, but did you find that took some getting used to at first?
Yeah, for sure. Also not being on my phone a lot. Like from going from like uni where I was constantly on my phone, on my laptop, whatever. I was just like, I would leave my phone in the cabin, and I'd be like, oh, like we're going about the day. Like I don't need to check my texts. And we did like swimming, archery. And the way my camp did it was like, we got in our training, we were treated as campers. We got to see camp from the perspective as campers. So we were like, okay, so we're going to do archery now. Then we're going to do like this game. And then we got to watch like a foot gaunt, like I was saying. So we got to see what it was like for the kids. And then when it was our turn to take over, we knew what we were doing. So that initial first week at camp was just like fun. It was getting used to people. We did like a staff social. We did like laser tag, and that was really fun. I got second place, and I'm still mad at that girl for getting more than me. But like her camp name, camp names. So her camp name was Laser, because she got first place in the laser tag, and she loved it. And she was like bang on focus on every goal, so it suited her really well. So my camp name was Barbie, which suited me really well. I have like a French beard is Barb, so I was like, oh, Barbie. And also like my personality is super like effervescent and like sparkly, and I also brought like a lot of makeup to camp, so a lot of my campers would walk around like with like sleigh glitter. And then other campers would be like, can I have some? Like, oh, you're not in Barbie's group. So it suited me really well. And then it just like was like all around positive. I was like a Disney princess counselor at times, but then like I would put on my counselor hat and be like, hey, put your shoes on.
Barbie's long.
Absolutely. This Barbie's angry. But it was great. Like, and then the kids were really receptive to that. They loved that. Like there was like 10 female counselors, all like long blonde hair, like really pretty. And then I'd stand out of the line and be like, I'm Barbie. And the kid'd be like, what? Like Barbie's a guy? Like there's no way. And then like with French, it's kind of gendered in terms of like, let's say I was kidding, oh, you're smart. I'd say like, t'es intelligente. And there's like an E at the end because you're a female. But like with the kids with me, they were like, oh, Barbie, like that's a feminine name, but like you're very masculine. So the kids would use gender inclusive French. And I was like, oh my God, these are like 11-year-olds that are super inclusive, which I loved. So like when they write me like little notes, they'd be like, oh, Barbie, t'es trop slay, with like an E at the end. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute.
That's so nice. So would you say, because I'd never heard of camp names, like I don't know if that's just a thing that my camp doesn't have, but is that something that you'd say like a lot of camps in Canada has?
Yeah, the company I worked with definitely has camp names for like every one of the camps, so it's cool to like hear the story, because camp names are like you're given a camp name by somebody else, so like you're indoctrined into that camp. You don't just like pick, oh, my name's going to be like Mr. 5000 like, or something.
You're like given.
Yeah, you're given it, and there's like a story behind it. So like there was this one guy, his name was Firefly, and it was because he was following me around with like a torch one night. I was like, you know what, you're my little Firefly tonight, and then we were like, oh my God, that's perfect.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
There was other ones like, oh, like joy, you bring joy to the world, and it's like it suits them really well. Like I really like the idea of a camp camp name, and also like it's great for the campers not finding our social media. Like if you look at Barbie,
is that like a reason for it?
It's like just for fun, and also it's like an added benefit to it, you know. And like it's a lot more fun to be like, hey Barbie, where's my shoes? And then like the 16-year-old guy that's like too cool for camp, he's like, Barbie, I don't want to go to this. And I'm like, oh sorry, can you say that a bit louder, please?
No, I think so. With the camp names, it's like I just find it so interesting.
Yeah.
It's just not anything that's like anything remotely like that in my camp. So how do you know your Barbie? Like, is there a conversation like, okay, this is my camp name now? Like how?
Oh yeah. So what happens is like every mealtime during training, someone would stand up and like sing a little song. You're like blah blah blah, and I baptize you Barbie, and then do you accept, do you decline? And then they'd be like, I need a bit of time to think about it. And then you would like at the next meal you'd be like, I accept, like officially accept my camp name. And then it would be great because sometimes we had like a trial run with like, okay, we don't like this camp name, we do like this, because sometimes you have to like figure it out at the end. And there was counselors that were like, I haven't gotten a camp name yet, and we're like, when the time comes, it'll be right.
You'll get one.
So I think I was the first counselor that was named of all the new ones, and then it just stuck ever since then. There was times where like I would have to fill out like my name in like a legal form, and I'd be like, but wait, hang on a second, Mark. And like the supervisors forgot my real names at times. They were like, what's your real name? And also the kids would be so infatuated. They'd be like, what's your real name?
Really?
And then at the end of every session we'd have like a game. So we'd get all the campers in like a circle, and we'd stand around the circle and we'd sing like a song. Be like, okay, it's called the telephone one, where it's like, I'm calling my friend Maya, and then we'd be like, wait, who's Maya in the room? Like they're looking around, and then Maya would like sing, hey, I'm on the telephone, and then you would like pass it around, so the kids be like, what, screaming. Like when I said like my name was Mark, they'd be like, Mark, oh my god, no, you're Barbie to me. So
so they can know.
Oh yeah, it's like yeah,
it's
just like a fun little secret you keep.
So with your campers, how long are they there for? Like do you do like the full summer with the same campers? Like how's that work at your camp? Yeah,
so in our camp we had like 10-day sessions. So like day 1 they would arrive on a bus, and then day 10 they would leave on the bus. So like in between there's like a set amount of activities, and they would all change depending on the group. But like I had like a group of like teenage boys for 10 days. Then we'd have 3 days off, 10 days, 3 days off. And that was great because it would like constantly new campers and new people. But it would suck at the same time because you get super attached to one group.
It's like, oh,
and then they'd leave.
Yeah.
But the benefit of going back is I get to see those kids again. So I'm going to be like, surprise, I'm back. Yeah.
Barbie's back. So
what about you?
So with ours, our camp is 6 weeks long, but we have a 3-week session or a 6-week session. So the campers get to choose if they're doing 3 or 6. To be honest, most do 6. They only often do 3, maybe if they've got like other summer plans, or if if they've got like a holiday, or maybe they're going to like a more specialist camp. I think I know a couple of my campers left. So mine was a traditional camp, so like literally everything. But one of my campers left after 3 weeks to go to like a football camp. So more for reasons like that, really. But yeah, so I get you big time on like the attachment. I feel like the last day of camp, it's
so emotional.
Horrible.
Oh my god. Like I didn't realize how much I was so emotional about it. Like I was so proud of myself. I just had my final evaluation just before getting on the bus back to Ottawa, and it was like, you did such an amazing job. You were really, really good. Like you should be so proud of yourself. All these activities went really well. We loved your creativity. Please come back. And I was like, wow, that's a great way to end the summer. But then I had all this amazing travel afterwards, so it's just like another layer of like all the stuff I was going to do. But then like leaving on the bus, we had like all these notes called warm fuzzies. So like throughout the season, you have like a bag, and then you have like your name on the bag, and people would leave like a little piece of paper every now and again. And at the end of the summer, you just have this bag full of like little notes. And I read through all of them on the bus, and that was like what sent me over the edge. Tearworks all throughout on the bus. Just like,
we have bus notes, we call them, and everybody writes them the night before camp ends. But it's like, I wish I could just like, it's that bad. I wish I could just leave a day early. Like I just hate the last day like so much. Because especially we're saying goodbye to like our co's as well, you know, that
oh my god, yeah.
I remember my first year, so all of my campers left, they all got on their buses to go, but all of my co's, so the people that I was living with, they were bus counsellors, so they were like escorting them back to the airport or wherever they were going. So I had to walk back to this empty bunk on my own, and it was so sad, and I had to like brush up, and I felt like I was in a film, you know, feeling really sorry for myself, like. But yeah, I think that's so tough, like when it all ends. So do you find campers are asking you if you're going back to camp? I feel like that's huge at our camp. Like the last day of camp, it's like, but you're coming back though, right?
Yeah.
Can't say no.
I mean, like, my plans changed. I was like, oh, I can't go back to camp at all. Like, I had something planned for this year that I wasn't able to go back to camp. And then all of a sudden that changed. And I was like, reach out to the camp straight away.
Please,
I'm coming back, please. Can I come back? And they were like, oh my God, absolutely. So, like, this is how it's going to work. And then going back is super easy. So I was just like, oh, great. I know what I'm doing. I'm doing a different role this time. So I'm going to be in charge of art. So I'm not going to be a general counselor. So I'm going to be the cool one in the art cabin, like the cool uncle. I'm not like a regular activity facilitator. I'm a cool Bill. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to going back because it's like, I love the environment. I love camp. I didn't realize it would be such a big part of my life until I've actually gone and done it. 100%. And it's like addictive. Like, people go back like 6 times.
Yeah, 100%. But then I think you kind of kid yourself. I don't know if that's the same with you, but I'm like, maybe I won't go back. And then like yeah. the invites to come back come out, and I'm like,
the melodrama of all right, I'll go.
You've got me. I'll do another. With returning, what's like the work permit process like? Is it like similar to first year, or? It's
a bit different in sense that like you don't make an application, the camp invites you to make an application, so you just get like an email like, oh, so and so camp wants you to come back, and then you create an application. It's very simple. You just pop in, because they have all your information already, so they just know it, like you're a good staff, you don't need to do an interview again, you just go straight through, and then like how to get to Canada yourself, so it's a lot easier to do it.
And then like, the same thing like at the
border,
airport,
same work permit thing, like you know what you're doing this time, so you have plenty of time for a connection flight. Like, and I'm not even getting a connection flight this time. I know I've learned my lesson.
How long does your flight take?
I think it was like 6 to 7 hours from Dublin.
7 hours. I feel like I just have no knowledge on like Canada as like where things are.
Yeah, people don't. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fly to Vancouver for a weekend. It's like, do you know how big Canada is? It's like gonna take you 5 hours just to cross it. Like, I went to Vancouver for 4 days, and my camp director was like, you are crazy. Like, why did you do that? But I was like, why not?
I just have no clue. We went to, so at my camp we do a senior trip, so it's like 6 weeks. No, it's not. Camp 6 weeks. Senior trip, it's like 5 days, and the second to last week, and it's for the oldest campers. We went to Toronto, and that was amazing, but obviously we were there on like a trip, so it was all kind of scheduled, so I didn't see too much of it. But in the office a couple of weeks ago, I'd never heard of Banff, and Henry in the office has lived in Canada for like 5 years.
Yeah, his camp was by Banff, I think.
Yeah. And so his camp was by Banff, and I came into the office and I was like, I saw this really cool place on TikTok last night. I was like,
a hidden gem.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of Banff. I don't know how you say it. And he was like, yeah, I've heard of Banff. Definitely heard of Banff. I was like, oh.
But Banff is beautiful. Like, it's literally heaven on earth. It's blue skies, blue water, like green trees. Everything there is stunning. That was my favorite place I went to in Canada. We did like horse riding there. We did canoeing. We got all those Instagram pictures, making all of my friends jealous. My friend had like COVID at the time, and she was flicking through my stories, and she was like, I hate you so much. And I was like, oh, squirrel just climbed up into my my backpack, and now it's like eating like my nuts, and it just was so cool. Like, I really would recommend Banff to anybody who wants to go. It's like a bit expensive, but it's well worth it.
Yeah. Like, where else did you go after, like, post-camp? Like, post-camp, so I know with post-camp travel, so I know with Camp Leaders, and like in the US you get 30 days to travel after, but you must get a bit.
You get a bit longer. It depends on like your availability, like, also what the immigration officer decides. Like, let's say like if your camp placement ends on like the 31st of August and you want to do some traveling, you should probably have like an itinerary of what you want to do, like hotels, or like I plan to do this, and then like a projected leave date, or even like a return flight booked after a while. They're like, okay, I can give you until then. But like with Camp Canada, you can get like an ESTA and travel into the States from Canada, because it's so close. Like, I think all Canadian cities are like 10 kilometers within the border. So I ended my Canadian travels in Banff, and then I flew to San Francisco. Cool. And I went and saw a concert there. It was super cool, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool to be in California. And I did not expect to be in California this year. I kept telling myself, like, if I told myself all these experiences from the beginning of the summer, I just wouldn't have believed me. But it was true. Like, so it's one of the benefits of doing Canada. Like, you can experience Canada, and then also
go to the US as well.
It's like, you just pay like $21 for an ESTA, and then that's fine.
Yeah. So I know you obviously went with your friend, like you wanted to go to a camp with originally, but did you go with people you met at camp?
Yeah, so I had met up with people in Toronto, as I was saying, and then like people from camp came with me to Montreal, then Toronto, and then we split up. So 3 of us went to Banff, and then the rest went to New York, and then my friend stayed in Toronto and waited for my other friend to come along. So we kind of like, as the time went on, our group got smaller and smaller. Yeah. And then I went to California by myself. So that was like, oh my God, I'm going to the States and
just
going through border patrol. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to do that post-camp travel because I felt like I'd earned it. Like throughout the summer, I booked all this stuff. Like, okay, we're going to book a hostel this week, book a bus. And then we had planned. And like, it was like our, like, I don't know, light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, I find with post-camp travel, so obviously my camp's in New York. My camp ends on a Friday morning. So it's kind of a thing that loads of us will go and stay in New York City, spend the weekend there. But I feel like I have to give myself, like, I feel like at the end of camp, I'm so tired. I have to be like, come on, wake up, like, like a last push. So yeah, this year we went to New York. But I think this year I'm going to let myself have like the first day in New York as a chill day because I need it. Because I think you're so not burnt out, but yeah, I guess. I guess you are burnt out after camp. Like it's been an emotional day. I've said goodbye to everyone. And then I think, you know, going straight into it this year, I need to be like kinder to myself and let myself 100%. Chill a bit without being like, I'm in New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this year I went to New York, then Nashville. So because we get 30 days on our visa. You have to leave at the end of the 30 days though. So did New York, Nashville, then flew home after that. My first year we rented a car. So me and like 4 of my friends that I'd met at camp, we rented a car and did a road trip. But I like being organised. Like I like knowing where I'm going, when. And it was literally like, we didn't know where we were going in like 2 days, but it was so cool. But I just had to be like,
I'm the Google Doc friend. I need to have the travel itinerary done. Yeah.
It was so cool. Like we were booking like Airbnbs like as we were arriving into cities and stuff.
Couldn't be
but
me.
I know I had to let myself kind of like be
actually,
like, it's fine, you're okay. But yeah, that was amazing. So we did like Nashville, New Orleans, Memphis.
Wow.
Yeah, we did. I don't know if you ever watched The Office.
Yeah.
Scranton as well. That was my request. But yeah, post-camp travel is like a big...
That's like probably one of my favorite parts of the summer. I did really enjoy the camp experience. There were so many rewarding moments, but like the moments that stick out to me are like, oh, I'm on the Golden Gate Bridge, or like, oh, I'm at Lake Louise, or I'm like these cool locations that I like ticked off my bucket list. And now I'm going back. I'm like, where am I going to go now? Like, I don't know. I was thinking about New York this time, or maybe I was thinking about maybe South America. I don't know. Like really push myself out of my comfort zone. But I am like, okay, will I give myself like just a day to like chill in a spa? Because that's what a lot of counselors did, was they went straight to spas.
That's what I need to do.
Bought water parks and stuff. Or like, and do you remember I was saying there's like 10 days, 3 days? So people would go for a spa day for 3 days.
Oh, of course. And then 3 days between.
Yeah. So and other times we just like chill in the camp, like on our own, watching like sex education or like Heartstopper, because we were like completely cut off from the world. So like my friend would like message me and I would reply like a week later. She'd be like, oh my God, you're alive. Like, thank God. And then I'd be like, oh, I haven't watched like Heartstopper, or like, and I went to see a concert at the end of the summer. I went to see the Renaissance tour, the Beyonce one.
No way.
So cool. Yeah. But like I wasn't online all summer, so I didn't see any footage of the tour. So I got to see it completely blind, and that was great. And I feel like I can't wait to do that again. Just kind of like disconnect from technology, because sometimes I feel like I'm like, whoa, okay, I've scrolled TikTok way too long. I just need to like take a break. But
because I find that as well. So we've got Wi-Fi at our camp, but it's only really in like certain areas, and you're so busy. Like sometimes my screen time's like an hour and 50 minutes. I got text my mum. Well, less actually. I'll text my mum and be like, I'm alive. That's it for like. But what kind of made me realize that this year is, do you know Big Fat Quiz of the Year?
Yeah.
I love it. And there were so many things that happened over summer, and I had like no idea that they'd happen. But I think that's so nice. You're just in that little like camp bubble. Like you don't know what's going on. Even stuff that's going on with like friends, like you don't know what's been going on, and it's nice in some ways. One thing that I think I need to make more of like a conscious effort to do this year is like check in more with people at home, like, and be like, hi mom, like.
Yeah, fully. My parents would like book time to talk to me. I'm like, I have a break at this time today. I had to keep in mind the time difference. It's like, oh, that's like 2:00 in Canada, but actually it's like 8:00 in the UK. And then like I would definitely book time with my friends. I'm like, okay, which friend am I going to call on my break? And it's like you're kind of fingers crossed that they'll answer the phone. And I definitely did that. But my friend actually sent me a letter to my camp, which was really sweet. Like she sent me a letter from San Diego, and it's just like, the letter was like, I love writing letters. I hope you're having a lovely summer and blah, blah, blah. And it was like a really nice thing, because I needed that letter that day. And she didn't even realize that like I just happened to be in like a day I was feeling really homesick, and like I missed a lot of people. And that letter just gave me that extra like oomph to keep going. So send letters to your friends at camp. No, like, why not?
Definitely, yeah. Well, I have... So my birthday's in July, so I have a camp birthday. So
me too.
Really?
Yeah, 1st of July, Canada Day.
No way.
Yeah.
So I take my birthday cards with me, and that's so like nice to open them. It makes me not homesick, but it makes me a bit like when I'm opening all my cards. And Mum sent me, she put a big bar of Galaxy in one of the cards, and that was needed. But I think so. Like, do Do you like having a camp birthday? Oh, I can't believe we
Yeah,
have camp birthdays.
I know, that's love the twinning here, yeah. So I had a camp birthday, and it fell on like the break, so I was able to go away.
Cool, yeah.
So we went to Montreal for my birthday, and then I turned 23 in a club. Like we just like danced on the floor, and I was like, I'm 20. So cool. And I was like, oh, I'm in like Montreal turning 23. That was awesome. And then like when I woke up the next day, I was able to call my parents, but I felt like I was a million miles away, calling all my friends and family. Like I was like, oh, this is really nice. I was like super busy that morning. I was like people calling me left, right, and center.
Yeah,
I was like,
happy birthday. I'll speak
oh my
to
god,
you
like
soon.
I'm like I have another call coming in. I actually have to take someone else saying happy birthday. But it was great, and like the camp was super. Like I got loads of love from the camp itself, and they were super accommodating. And I actually was like, oh, like my birthday's in the middle of camp. Like I don't really know if I want to do it. And then like I loved the fact that I did it. So
100%. So yeah, my first year, my birthday was on a day off, so we went into New York City. This year I was working my birthday, but I think I preferred working it. Like everybody made like
big effort.
Yeah, of course, like, and it's nice, and all my campers wrote me cards and things.
Aww.
And like a couple of them made me bracelets for the Eras tour. Yeah, and it was so nice, like, to feel kind of like,
that's so special.
Yeah,
this year my birthday is going to be on a working day. I think it's going to be during the training with the counselors. So
is it?
Yeah,
but I like having a camp birthday because I celebrate when I get home as well anyway. So I just double the celebrations. But I think that's a big thing. So my graduation was meant to be this summer as well, and I think I pretended that I was like considering it, and then I just deferred it to December. But I would say that's such like, when I had my graduation in December, I was like, I'm so glad I didn't miss camp for this one day. Like graduation was good. You just sit there like
I know,
for like three hours. So I was definitely glad. And I think a lot of, especially returning to camp, I think you'll be making like sacrifices and missing out on things. Like, it was my 21st this year, which I was a bit sad to miss, but again, it's one of them, like, it's a day.
Yeah, literally. Like, I was a little bit like gutted because I can't go to the Eras tour because I'm going to be in camp, and I'm like, you know what, like, it's worth it for the whole summer. Like, I have to weigh my which sides I want to do, but like I actually made it to my graduation on time, so I stayed longer for the fall session in Canada, and like my graduation was like the 27th of November. I just asked camp, could I leave a bit early, and they were like, yeah, absolutely. But like I was glad I got to have my cake and eat it too, because I got to enjoy camp and then go back to my graduation. And I actually did enjoy my graduation. Like they made a huge deal of it in my college. Really? They were like, oh, like this is not just one graduation, it's like 170 graduations. Think about all the times you weren't able to do it. Think about all the times that you like couldn't get that assignment done. And I was like, you know what, this is really nice. And then I got my degree in Latin, and I was like, oh, well, okay, great. But cool. But like camp really made me appreciate that little moment. Like that's something I really learned from camp, is to appreciate the small moments. Like one thing which is so cool, we wrote ourselves like a message in a bottle. So we were like wrote like a letter to ourselves at the start of the summer, and then put it in like a way, or like we put it in an envelope, and it was supposed to be mailed to us. And then we did like a small one, which was like a tiny little bottle, and you just like scroll up a little piece of paper and write like one thing you want to do in the summer. And I wrote like in French, benefit from every experience. So like even if it's a bad experience, I can take something from it and learn it. So I was like, okay, maybe like this day didn't really go well, but I won't make that mistake again. Or like I really love this day, I'm really gonna enjoy it and savor the moment. So that's like something I've carried with me up until now. Like
100%. I think at my camp, one thing they say in orientation all the time is don't sweat the small things. And I remember my first year, like I sweat the small things.
Me too.
Like I really did. And then this summer I came back to it and I was like, no, I'm not sweating the small things. Like I'm going, and I just had not necessarily a better time, but such a different experience from it. Like, okay, you may have been late to this activity, but in the grand scheme of things, it's fine. The campers are all happy. They're all having a good time. But I think like not sweating the small stuff was just made a huge difference. I think
we all had like moments where we were like, I'm the worst camp counselor in the world, and all the counselors would agree, and it's like, no, I'm the worst one because I forgot my kid's sticker book today. And then like once you, as you said, don't sweat the small stuff, like when I was there for the fall, I was able to be like, you know what, like at least these kids are safe and okay, like they're having a good time, as long as they're having fun in a safe way, I'm doing my job. So like if they're a little bit late to the activity, I'll just explain to the person like, oh, like Timmy didn't put his shoes on or something, you know. And like they understand that camp is a crazy environment. So like if you need 10 minutes, that's one thing I loved about my camp. If you need 10 minutes, take 20. Like take a breath, take it, and come back when you're ready. We don't want to work you out when you're stressed. And like if I did that in my retail job, they'd be like, okay, go back on the floor, you know. Like versus camp, they're like, you don't go over to the lake, just take a deep breath and come back when you're ready. Like I really liked that.
100%. I think as well, because you get such a close relationship with the people you're working with. Like my co-host, for example, and I think we could all say to each other, like, I just need to go and take a breather. And everybody was so fine and so ready to like pick up what other people may have been needing a hand for. But even with, as a general counsellor, say if we were going to an activity and there was that specific counsellor, maybe the one that was teaching like, I don't know, football, was feeling like tired, just being like, oh, I can help you out if you need.
Yeah.
And it just makes such a difference. Like,
It really does.
yeah, like it may not be the same activity they had planned, but again, as long as everyone's having fun, safe, like
Campers don't know that,
yeah,
you know?
don't sweat it, it's fine.
I loved working with co's, like, so I don't know if we explained like what a co-counselor is. So it's like basically someone like working alongside you with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
group of kids, like, you know, but just if people didn't know. But I had 3 co's, so there was 4 sessions, and it was like I worked with like 2 Irish girls and then a French girl, and like she had like not a lot of English, so I had to really like push myself to talk to her. But then like since I had those experiences with the co's, I like learned something from each of them. Like, okay, this is their style. I was, okay, now I need to adapt myself to their style. Like maybe they're a bit more like emotional.
Yeah.
This one's a bit more like understanding, and this one's really organized. This one's creative ideas. So I was able to like take all of those. And then when I was actually a solo counselor at the end of the summer, that was like my biggest challenge. It was like, okay, we trust you to have the French, do the activities, listen to the kids, organize the like the day-to-day stuff, and like deal with the disputes and stuff. I think so I had a group of girls and 2 trans boys at the end of the summer, and that was great. Like I was like, oh, I'm done working with teenage boys, like I'm done being dirty. And then halfway through I was like, I miss being dirty. Like I would like, we'd do our nails and we do like makeup and make bracelets and stuff, but it was like mean girls at times. I was just like, this is great, but like it was a challenge to be a solo counselor, but I'm really glad that I did it.
So what, like, is solo counselor literally just like you're on your own?
You're with that group of kids on your own. Every day, every
Wow.
activity, every day. If a kid runs off in one direction, you have to go get that kid, and like you sit with the kids. You basically know them all really well. And
Yeah.
I really wanted to work as a solo counselor, and I got pulled into the office and they asked me, look, would you be comfortable being a solo counselor? I was like, oh my God, yes. And then I asked the other counselors that had been solo counselors, like, how did you find it? And they were like, look, you'll know every kid super well. You'll be really proud of yourself. It is tough, but like, if you need any support, all the other counselors will be there
Yeah.
to step in. And there were moments where I was like, oh, that kid run off crying. Can you look
Yeah.
after my kids? And then they were like, yeah, absolutely. Take, like, no problem. And like, I really did appreciate learning every one of those kids. Cause like, I got to like know how to make them stop crying. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like I was juggling a kid in between someone else. So I was like taking that responsibility. Now, managing that on my own was tough, but I did it. So like, I'm still here. I'm still breathing. Like, that's something I'm glad that I did that. Did you ever work as a solo counselor? Or?
That's not really a thing at my camp, no. So we have like 4 counsellors in a bunk. So what's funny is 3 out of 4 of us went to the same uni, which was like
that's mad.
Yeah, when we were all like meeting for the first time, it came up and we were all like, oh,
hang on.
yeah. And we all lived really close to each other, which was just so random, because usually in bunks, like, people are from like all over the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 out of 4 of us went to
That's
uni in
mad.
Newcastle. So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, and then one of the girls was Irish as well. So yeah, we never really have kind of like solo counselors. You may be on your own with them, but you're just
your counselor's on break or something.
Yeah, like you might just be taking them to like the pool if one of your counsellors is off. So in our bunks we have like 2 counsellors who are activity specialists. So we had one of the girls, she was high ropes, and one of them was a lifeguard, and then 2 cabin specialists. So that was me and Ava. So we were with the kids like all the time. So you do build up that like
rapport,
super close relationship with them. But going back as an activity specialist, are you like anxious for that? Like, are you anxious for the change? Like, what do you think it's going to be like?
Like, there's days where I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. But I said that the first time.
Yeah.
So I just tell myself, you know what? Like, they're going to train me. They're not going to throw me into the first day. And also, a lot of the stuff I did in the fall is very transferable to the summer. So, like, I was an art activity lead in the fall. So I can just do it again. But it's just more like a next level up. And I did foot comp before, so I can do it again. Yeah. So if I practice rational thinking, I'll be fine. But there's moments where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be doing things that are not comfortable, but I said earlier, like, it's something that I learned from.
Like,
and
going to Canada wasn't comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. But I can do it again.
Yeah.
And like, also, it's cool because, as I said, I get to be a cool activity facilitator. So like, I'm like, oh, that kid's over there. He's not happy. But like, the kids get to come back and be like, oh my God, Barbie, like, it's so nice to see you. And like, I remember when we were coming to camp, we were bringing kids and they were like, oh, it's like Skip there, it's like Queen there. And I'd be like, oh yeah, they're there. And like, yeah, oh my God. And then I was like talking to people about this and they were like, next year, that'll be them about you. So they'll be like, oh my God, is Barbie coming back? And then the kids would be like, yeah, Barbie is there. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we have it like when I said earlier about like bus counsellors. So where they like go on the bus with the kids. So we do bus counts as well, picking them up from certain areas and taking them to camp. And that's like when we kind of see a lot of our kids for the first time.
Yeah, me too.
From like the the previous year. But yeah, that's so nice. And when you're on the bus as well, the campers don't know what age you've got for that summer. They don't know, and they're like, "Are you my counsellor? Are you my counsellor? Who's my counsellor?" And I'm like,
I don't know. Oh, did you know whose kid? Oh,
we know, yeah.
We didn't.
Oh, you don't know?
We just got a list of kids. Like, we know like what kind of age brackets, but we didn't know like what age these kids were.
That's how you found out.
Yeah, literally get off the bus. Here's your list of kids. Take them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a little bit like you're just looking at a crowd of kids, and then the kid would walk towards you, and you're like, "Oh, you're gonna be my friend for the next 10 days." Like,
oh, see, we have, maybe it's because our kids are there for longer, so we have like a staff reveal party. So yeah, so it's a different theme every year. So this year it was holidays, which caused absolute carnage because all of us international staff thought holidays is in like Spain, like where you're going, but it was holidays as in like Christmas. Yeah. So I went as a Christmas tree in the end. That was last minute after my holiday outfit was scrapped. And we have like divisions, so freshman, sophomore, junior, so they're all the different ages of kids, and each division has like a division head, so they get up on stage. It's everyone's like in silence watching them on the stage, and then they're like, for this bunk we have, and then they list the names off. So ours is like a big
reveal.
Yeah, like literally a reveal, and then we get some like information about the kids and stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Like obviously, so you're clued up with who you're meeting and stuff, because I think that's nice as well, where like, for example, my kids, this was like their 6th or 7th summer at camp, so they weren't necessarily nervous. But, you know, to be able to be like, oh, you're so-and-so, you're from here, like, how are you? How are you finding it? I think that's, like, a nice...
Yeah, it was nice to be like, oh, this kid really likes this, or, like, appreciates when you do this, so this is their favourite activity. So then you can kind of, like, hype it up, like, oh, we're doing archery today.
Yeah.
So, like, I did, like, appreciate the little heads up about some campers, just like, oh, like, maybe just, like, be, like, nice with this one, you know. It was, like, I really appreciated it just because I knew what I was walking into. Now, some of the campers were coming for the first time, so I had to figure out a lot of the stuff on my own. But, yeah, with my type of camp, working with underprivileged kids, you can't really just upright ask, you know? So,
of course.
And one of the things I really loved about the camp was that it's like motto is like every kid counts. So a lot of the time they don't really tell you what kind of things are going on in their life because they just like, otherwise you might be like biased or whatever. So you just treat them as like a normal kid. And a lot of the times in their lives, they don't get that. So that's why I love the camp. And I'd be like, you're like, a lot of the kids would like really look forward to it every year. Like, I can't wait to go back to camp. And yeah, they have like their same camp friends. And yeah, I really loved that part of the job.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen, but every episode of the podcast, we get some participants to send in a question that they might have. So the question we've been sent for this week is, what are your tips for a new summer camp counsellor? I'm going to be a cabin counsellor this summer. What are words of wisdom you have for me? Both serious and silly ones will be appreciated.
Ooh, okay, that's a really good question. I think just like from experience, patience is one of the things I would really like practice. It's just because like things are going to go wrong. Kids are going to be a little bit like, I don't know, rowdy at times. You just like take a deep breath. Like, these kids are just here to have fun. They're not here to like ruin your day. Keeping organized, a watch like is the most important thing you bring to camp. I remember our camp telling us, bring a watch. And I was like, a watch? Who wears a watch anymore? No. This watch was my best friend. Like, I still wear a watch normally. Like, a watch is really important. And then, like, having a backpack full of, like, snacks for your kids. Because some of the kids, like, I had a diabetic kid. And, like, having snacks on hand was really important. And also just, like, little things for the kids, like a stress ball or something. So, like, you have, like, a bag of tricks in your bag. So, like, you got, like, your timetable, everything you need, like, lots of water, sunblock. If a little kid is, like, has a mosquito, you're like straight away with the mosquito stick, like a utility belt almost. And then another tip is like, as you said, don't sweat the small stuff. Like, you're gonna make mistakes, and that's like learning from those mistakes really helps you become a better counselor. Like, when I was a counselor at the beginning, I was super like strict and I didn't really know how camp worked, and I was like trying to focus on the behavior, and then like I slowly learned over time that like I can let the kids be kids and I can have fun. And and when I started to have fun with the kids, I realized like this is a great job. Like, my job is essentially just to facilitate fun. So once I realized that, I really relaxed, and I was like, you know what, like that's what I would tell a counselor, to have fun with the kids.
100%. Like, I think don't sweat the small things is like a huge one. Like, for example, like my campers this year, they all wanted to have a sleepover on the floor, and then it's like, well, yeah, I guess so. Like, you're here to have, like, you're literally coming here to have fun. Like, exactly. So yeah, I think mine would be don't sweat the small stuff. And as well, I think I'd say take time for yourself.
100%.
I think when you get there and you've met all these new friends and they're doing this and that on a day off, you want to go with them, but then I think it gets, the like burnout will come quicker and quicker and quicker. And I think as well, just, you know, saying, oh no, I'm not going to go out tonight. I'm just going to read. 100%. Like, self-care, like the same self-care that you do at home, whatever that might be, even if that's like blow drying your hair. Like just do it. Like make
Not
time.
in my case, but like.
Make time for yourself to kind of do those things.
Cool.
So thank you so much, Mark, for joining. I feel like I've learned so much about like even different types of camp and as well about Canada as a whole.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to join in next week for the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Camp Leaders Podcast. If you liked it, please hit the subscribe button so you could be first to hear about our future episodes.